I sat across from Derek Holloway's desk, my hands trembling as I held the oncologist's letter. Stage 3 lymphoma. The words had shattered my world 48 hours ago, and now I needed just 6 weeks for chemotherapy. Derek didn't even look up from his computer screen as I explained. His fingers kept typing, the clicking sound unnaturally loud in the sterile office. "Marcus, we're in the middle of the Henderson merger," he said flatly, finally meeting my eyes. "I can't spare you for 6 weeks. You're the only senior analyst who understands their financial systems." My throat tightened. "Derek, this is cancer. I start treatment Monday, or the oncologist says my survival rate drops significantly." He leaned back, arms crossed. "I'm not unsympathetic, but business is business. Use your vacation days, you have 8 left. After that, if you're not back, I'll have to mark it as unpaid leave, and honestly, we might need to revisit your position entirely." The room spun. 8 days for 6 weeks of chemotherapy. I'd given this company 7 years of 60-hour weeks, missed my sister's wedding for a presentation, sacrificed relationships for quarterly reports. And now, when I needed them most, I was disposable. "You're denying my medical leave?" My voice cracked. "I'm being realistic," Derek said, returning to his screen. "The company comes first." I stumbled out of Derek's office, barely making it to the bathroom before my legs gave out. Sitting in the stall, I pulled out my phone with shaking hands. My sister, Naomi, had insisted I record the conversation. "Just in case," she'd said. I hadn't believed it would be necessary. I played it back. Derek's cold voice filled my ears. "Business is business. We might need to revisit your position entirely." Every word was crystal clear. In our state, single-party consent meant this recording was completely legal. I had documented proof of everything. But what could I do with it? I was about to start chemotherapy. I needed my health insurance, which was tied to this job. Fighting Derek meant risking everything when I was at my most vulnerable. My hands hovered over my phone, tears blurring the screen. Then my phone buzzed. A text from my best friend. "Kyle, how'd it go?" I couldn't type the words. Instead, I sent the audio file. 3 dots appeared immediately. Then, "Marcus, this is illegal. Like seriously illegal. I know someone who can help. Don't do anything until we talk tonight." Kyle arrived at my apartment with Vanessa Torres, an employment attorney he knew from college. She was younger than I expected, maybe 30, with sharp eyes that softened when she saw me. I looked terrible, pale, exhausted, defeated. "Let me hear it," Vanessa said, settling on my couch. I played the recording. She listened twice, making notes. When it finished, she looked up with an expression that sent chills down my spine. Not pity, anger. "Marcus, this isn't just unethical. It's a violation of the Family and Medical Leave Act. You're entitled to 12 weeks of protected medical leave. Derek can't deny it, can't threaten your position, and definitely can't retaliate. What he did is textbook illegal." "But I need my insurance," I whispered. "If I fight him and lose my job." "You won't. And if he fires you for pursuing this, that's retaliation, which multiplies the damages. But here's what I want to do." She leaned forward. "File for FMLA immediately through HR, bypassing Derek entirely. Document everything. Start your treatment. Let me handle the legal side quietly. We build an airtight case while you focus on getting better. And then," her smile was cold, "then Derek Holloway learns actions have consequences." Monday morning, while Derek thought I'd simply disappeared, I walked into the HR department on the building's 3rd floor. Patricia Wong, the HR director, looked surprised to see me. I'd always worked with Derek exclusively. Most employees never dealt with HR directly. "I need to file for FMLA," I said, placing my oncologist's documentation on her desk. Patricia's face went white as she read. "Marcus, I'm so sorry. Of course, this is automatically approved. You're entitled to 12 weeks of protected leave. When do you start treatment?" "Today. In 3 hours." She typed rapidly. "Done. You're officially on medical leave as of this moment. Your insurance remains active, Your position is protected, and I'm noting this was processed through official channels. She paused. Did you speak with your direct supervisor about this? I did. Friday afternoon. Something flickered across her face. And he denied it. Said I could use my 8 vacation days, but after that, I was on my own, and my position would be revisited. Patricia's hands stopped moving. He said what? I have it recorded. The silence stretched for 10 heartbeats. Then Patricia closed her office door. Marcus, I need you to send me that recording. Right now. Patricia listened to the recording 3 times, her expression growing darker with each replay. When it ended, she looked at me with a mixture of horror and determination. Marcus, what Derek did is a terminable offense. But it's also possible he's done this before. She pulled up her computer. I need your permission to forward this to our corporate compliance team and the legal department. This kind of FMLA violation exposes the company to massive liability. Will Derek know it came from me? Eventually, yes. But by then, you'll be protected by whistleblower statutes on top of everything else. He can't touch you. I thought of Derek's smug face, his casual cruelty. Do it. Within an hour, I received an email from corporate compliance requesting a formal statement. By the time I left for my first chemotherapy appointment, I'd spent 90 minutes on a video call with 3 lawyers and the head of corporate HR. They asked me to detail every interaction with Derek, every conversation, every meeting. And I remembered something else. 2 years ago, another analyst, Tony Brennan, had left suddenly. He'd been sick. I didn't know with what. And one day he was just gone. We were told he'd resigned. But what if he hadn't? I mentioned it to the lawyers. The head attorney's eyes sharpened. Can you get us Tony's contact information? I think so. Do it. Today, if possible. I found Tony through LinkedIn that evening, after my first chemotherapy session left me nauseous and weak. He lived 2 states away now, working for a competitor. I sent a careful message. Hey Tony, hope you're well. Can we talk? It's about Derek Holloway. He called me within 20 minutes. Marcus. God. I hoped I'd never hear that name again. His voice was tight with old pain. What did he do to you? I told him everything. The silence that followed was heavy with shared understanding. He did the same thing to me, Tony finally said. I had a heart condition, needed surgery and recovery time. Derek told me I could take 2 weeks maximum or find another job. I was terrified, so I used my vacation days and came back way too early. I ended up in the ER 3 weeks later because I wasn't healed. When I couldn't come in the next day, he fired me. Said I was unreliable. Did you have documentation? Of the firing? No. Of the medical situation? Yes. But Marcus, I was drowning in medical debt. I couldn't afford to fight him. I just let it go and moved on. Tony, would you be willing to talk to the company's legal team? I have a recording of Derek denying my medical leave. If you come forward, I'll destroy him? Tony laughed bitterly. Yeah, I'll talk to them. It's about damn time someone held that bastard accountable. Corporate compliance moved faster than I expected. By Wednesday, 3 more former employees had come forward. Derek had a pattern spanning 5 years of denying or discouraging medical leave, particularly for serious conditions. One woman, Sheila Crawford, had been denied leave after a car accident that required physical therapy. Another man, Victor Chun, I couldn't use that name. Another man, Victor Palmer, had been pressured to return early from emergency gallbladder surgery. Vanessa called me Wednesday evening, her voice electric with excitement despite my exhaustion from treatment. Marcus, this is bigger than we thought. The company is looking at a class action exposure. Derek's behavior has created massive liability, and there's evidence that he falsified reports to make his denied leave victims look like performance problems. He systematically destroyed people's careers to cover his tracks. What happens now? Corporate is doing a full investigation. They've placed Derek on administrative leave as of this afternoon. He doesn't know why yet. They told him it's a routine review. Meanwhile, they're interviewing everyone who worked under him in the past 7 years. I sat up despite my nausea. He's suspended? As of 2 p.m. today. Marcus, you're not just protecting yourself. You're exposing a systematic abuse of power that's hurt dozens of people. The company is terrified of the legal exposure and the PR nightmare. Derek Holloway's career is over. They just haven't told him yet. I wasn't supposed to know, but Patricia called me Friday morning with a warning. Derek had figured out the investigation centered on FMLA violations and had somehow learned I'd filed after he denied me. He was furious and had been trying to contact me. Patricia had blocked his access to my personal information, but she wanted me to be aware. "He's coming unglued," she said quietly. "Security has been notified that he's not allowed on company property. But Marcus, be careful. He's desperate." That afternoon, as I lay on my couch recovering from my second round of chemotherapy, my doorbell rang. I checked the security camera Kyle had helped me install. Derek Holloway stood on my doorstep, looking disheveled and angry. I didn't open the door. Instead, I called Vanessa, put my phone on speaker, and spoke through the camera intercom. "Derek, leave. You're not welcome here. You recorded me, you son of a bitch." His voice cracked with rage. "You're destroying my career over a misunderstanding. I was trying to help you understand the business reality. You denied my medical leave for cancer treatment. There's no misunderstanding. I'll sue you for defamation. Derek." Vanessa's voice came through my phone, clear and cold. "This is Marcus's attorney, Vanessa Torres. This conversation is being recorded. You are currently violating a corporate restraining order by attempting to contact my client. Leave immediately, or I'll have the police remove you for harassment." Derek's face went purple on the camera feed. He kicked my door, leaving a scuff mark, then stormed away. Vanessa spoke calmly. "Did you get that on video?" "Every second." "Perfect. That's witness intimidation. Forward it to me and corporate compliance immediately." Monday morning, I received a call from Bradley Sutherland, the regional vice president, Derek's boss. His voice was careful, professional, and deeply apologetic. "Marcus, I want to personally apologize for what happened. There's no excuse for Derek's behavior, and I want you to know the company takes this extremely seriously. We've completed our preliminary investigation, and we're moving forward with immediate termination proceedings against Derek Holloway." My breath caught. "He's being fired?" "As of this morning, yes. For cause, which means no severance package. Additionally, we've discovered he falsified performance reviews for multiple employees to justify denying their leave requests and subsequent terminations. That's fraud. We're considering whether to pursue criminal charges." "Criminal charges?" "He created fraudulent documentation to cover up illegal employment practices. That crosses into criminal territory. But Marcus, there's something else. We found an email." Bradley paused, and I heard papers rustling. 3 weeks before you disclosed your diagnosis to Derek, he received a company-wide memo from HR reminding all managers about FMLA obligations, specifically highlighting that medical leave for serious conditions cannot be denied. Derek not only read it, he replied to HR questioning whether business-critical employees could be treated differently. HR explicitly told him no. He knew exactly what he was doing when he denied your leave. The implications hit me like a truck. It was premeditated. Worse, it was a willful violation of policy he'd been explicitly warned about. "Marcus, the company wants to make this right. We'd like to offer you a settlement," Bradley continued. "Full salary continuation during your treatment and recovery, extension of your medical leave to however long you need, guaranteed position when you return, a promoted position, actually senior team lead, and a financial settlement for the distress caused. Additionally, we'll cover any out-of-pocket medical expenses not covered by insurance." I was silent, processing. This was more than I'd hoped for. "There's no requirement to accept," Bradley added quickly. "You're free to pursue litigation if you prefer. But we'd like to resolve this fairly and quickly so you can focus on your health." "How much?" I asked quietly. $250,000, plus everything else I mentioned. It was a fortune, life-changing money, but something in me hesitated. "And Derek?" "His termination proceeds regardless of whether you accept this settlement. That's not negotiable." He's done. I thought of Tony, of Sheila, of Victor, of all the others Derek had hurt. What about them? The other people he destroyed. We're reaching out to all of them with settlement offers as well. Tony Brennan has already retained counsel, and we're in negotiations. Marcus, you started something that's helping a lot of people get justice. I closed my eyes, exhausted from treatment, from stress, from everything. I need to discuss this with my attorney. Of course, take your time. And Marcus, I'm truly sorry this happened to you. Vanessa reviewed the settlement offer that evening over video call. I looked terrible. Chemotherapy was hitting hard, but my mind was clear. It's a strong offer, she said carefully. Very strong, actually. If we went to trial, we might get more in punitive damages, but it would take years, and the stress wouldn't help your recovery. Plus, there's always risk in litigation. What would you do? I'd take it. You're getting full compensation, career advancement, and enough money to secure your future. Plus, Derek's being terminated and potentially facing criminal charges. That's accountability. But Marcus, this is your choice. I thought about it through the night. By morning, my decision was clear. I called Bradley. I'll accept the settlement, but I have conditions. Name them. First, I want a written guarantee that if Derek applies to any position within the company in the future, HR will flag his file with the FMLA violations. Second, I want the company to implement mandatory training for all managers on medical leave rights. Third, I want an employee advocate position created. Someone who works independently of management who employees can go to with complaints like this. Silence. Then Bradley spoke, his voice impressed. You're not just looking out for yourself. Derek hurt too many people. I don't want this to happen again. Done. All 3 conditions. I'll have the revised agreement to you by the end of the day. Then we have a deal. 2 days after I accepted the settlement, Derek made one final, desperate move. He posted on LinkedIn a long rant about cancel culture and vindictive employees who destroy good managers with false accusations. He didn't name me, but anyone who knew the situation would recognize it. The post was delusional, painting himself as a victim of corporate politics and employee entitlement. He claimed he'd always followed company policy and that he was being terminated for having high standards. He stayed up for 6 hours. Then the comments started. Tony Brennan was first. Derek Holloway denied my medical leave after heart surgery and fired me when I ended up in the ER. This isn't cancel culture. It's accountability. Sheila Crawford followed. Derek Holloway pressured me to work through physical therapy after a car accident, then documented me as a performance problem when I couldn't meet unrealistic deadlines. The company investigated and found he falsified my reviews. More names I didn't recognize added their stories. A woman was denied leave for pregnancy complications. A man whose father died, and Derek gave him 3 days bereavement when policy allowed 5. Within 12 hours, Derek's post had over 300 comments, almost all from people he'd hurt. The ratio of criticism to support was devastating. By morning, Derek had deleted his LinkedIn entirely. But the internet never forgets. Someone had a screenshot of everything. The post went viral on Reddit's r/anti-work, then Twitter, then local news picked it up. Derek Holloway became a cautionary tale. 3 weeks into my treatment, I received an unexpected visitor. Patricia Wong from HR came to my apartment with flowers and a basket of non-perishable comfort items suitable for someone in chemotherapy. I'm not here in any official capacity, she said when I let her in. I'm here personally. Marcus, I'm so sorry. I should have caught this sooner. Derek's pattern was in the system. The data was there. But I didn't see it until you forced me to look. She sat down heavily. I've worked in HR for 15 years, and I tell myself I protect employees. But the truth is, I was so focused on processing paperwork and managing benefits that I missed the abuse happening in my own building. You had to be your own advocate because I failed to be the advocate you deserved. Her honesty surprised me. You helped when it mattered. After you nearly died getting there. That's not good enough. She met my eyes. I've submitted a proposal to Bradley for that employee advocate position you requested. I want to run it. Not as an additional duty, but as my primary focus. I want to make sure that if something like Derek exists in this company again, someone catches it before it destroys lives. You'd really do that? I have to. I can't live with myself otherwise. Your courage to speak up showed me I need to be braver too. I didn't know what to say. Patricia left shortly after, but her visit stayed with me. Change wasn't just happening at the top, it was happening at every level. For weeks into treatment, Tony Brennan called with surprising news. Marcus, I've been talking with the others, all the people Derek screwed over. We've formed a group, 12 of us so far. And we're wondering if you'd be willing to talk to the media. Media? A reporter from the local business journal contacted me. She's doing an investigation into workplace rights violations in corporate environments. Your case is the centerpiece, the one that brought everything down, but she wants to tell the bigger story. About how one person standing up can protect dozens of others. My first instinct was to refuse. I was exhausted, sick, just trying to survive treatment. But then I thought about the next person who'd face someone like Derek. The next sick employee who'd be told their health didn't matter. What would it involve? An interview, on the record, about what happened and what it took to fight back. Marcus, if we do this right, it's not just about Derek. It's about changing how companies treat sick employees everywhere. Making our story matter. Let me think about it. But I already knew my answer. The reporter, Angela Vargas, came to my apartment on a day when I was feeling relatively strong. She was thorough, compassionate, and angry on my behalf. I told her everything, showing her the recording, the documentation, and the timeline. This is extraordinary, she said, reviewing her notes. You documented everything perfectly. Most people in your situation are too overwhelmed to think about evidence. My sister insisted. She didn't trust Derek from the start. Smart woman. Marcus, I want to be clear about something. When this article is published, it's going to be big. Derek will be named. The company will be named. Your story will be public. Are you prepared for that? I thought about it. About privacy versus impact. About staying silent versus speaking out. I've spent 7 years making other people's businesses successful, I said finally. I worked through holidays, weekends, and family events. I sacrificed everything for a company that saw me as disposable the moment I got sick. If my story prevents that from happening to someone else, then yes, I'm prepared. Angela smiled. That's what every other person I've interviewed said. You're all remarkably brave. We're all remarkably tired of being treated as less than human. The article was published 2 weeks later, 6 weeks into my treatment. The cost of corporate callousness, how one manager's illegal actions exposed systematic abuse, ran as a front-page feature in the Business Journal and was immediately picked up nationally. My phone didn't stop ringing for 3 days. The article's impact exceeded anything I'd imagined. Within 48 hours, #Holloway Effect was trending on social media as thousands of people shared their own stories of being denied medical leave or facing retaliation for being sick. Derek's name became synonymous with workplace abuse. More importantly, 3 other companies in the region immediately announced policy reviews and mandatory manager training on FMLA rights. The state labor department launched an investigation into corporate compliance with medical leave laws. My former company's stock dropped 3% on the negative publicity but recovered within a week when they issued a comprehensive statement about the reforms they were implementing, including all 3 of my conditions, plus more. Bradley called personally. Marcus, I won't pretend the publicity has been comfortable for the company, but you've forced us to be better. Our board has mandated quarterly audits of all FMLA requests and denials. Every manager will undergo recertification training, and Patricia's employee advocate program has been approved with a full budget and staff. Good. There's something else. Several other companies have reached out asking to model their policies on what we're implementing. Your story is creating industry-wide change. I hadn't expected that. I just wanted to survive my treatment and hold Derek accountable. But apparently, accountability had a ripple effect. How's your treatment going? Bradley asked, his tone shifting to genuine concern. Week 7. 3 more to go. It's brutal, but I'm getting through. You're stronger than you know. I tried not to follow Derek's fate too closely, but information reached me anyway. After being terminated, he'd attempted to find another management position. No one would hire him. The viral nature of his story meant every search of his name brought up articles about his abuses. He tried starting a consulting business. It failed within 6 weeks. Then I heard he'd filed for bankruptcy. The legal fees from attempting to fight his termination, combined with the loss of income, had destroyed him financially. Kyle asked me one evening if I felt guilty. We were sitting in my living room, and I was having a rare good day between treatment sessions. Should I? I asked. Some people would say you ruined his life. I thought carefully before answering. Derek made choices. He chose to deny my medical leave. He chose to falsify records. He chose to destroy other people's careers to cover his actions. He chose to show up at my door and try to intimidate me. Every consequence he's facing flows from his own decisions. But if you just accepted it, I'd be dead or bankrupt from medical bills, and he'd still be hurting people. Kyle, I didn't ruin Derek's life. I stopped him from ruining more lives. There's a difference. Kyle nodded slowly. You're right. I just worry about you carrying guilt. I don't. I really don't. What I feel is relief. That's it's over. That he can't hurt anyone else. Week 9 of treatment, I received a message through LinkedIn from someone I didn't know. Alexis Hunt, a woman who worked in HR at a different company. Her message was simple but powerful. I read your story. Last week, my manager denied a colleague's FMLA request for pregnancy complications, claiming it would disrupt team dynamics. I remembered your article, checked our policies, and brought it to our head of HR with documentation. My manager is now on administrative leave, and my colleague is getting the protected leave she deserves. Thank you for being brave enough to speak up. You saved her job and possibly her baby's life. I stared at the message for a long time, then shared it with Vanessa. This is what we hoped for, she said. You didn't just get justice for yourself. You created a roadmap for others. Over the following weeks, more messages arrived. An employee in Texas reported their manager after reading the article. A woman in Ohio who recorded her supervisor's illegal denial and filed a complaint. A man in Florida who contacted an employment attorney instead of suffering in silence. Each message was a life changer. Person is protected. A Derek Holloway stopped before they could destroy more careers. I thought this was about my story, but it had become about everyone's story. About the collective power of refusing to accept abuse as normal. Week 10 brought both my lowest physical point and an unexpected emotional high. The chemotherapy had devastated my body. I'd lost 23 pounds. My hair was completely gone, and I could barely walk to my mailbox without exhaustion. But my oncologist, Dr. Peterson, had good news during my checkup. The scans show significant tumor reduction, she said, smiling. Marcus, the treatment is working. Your response has been excellent. If this continues, we're looking at remission. I couldn't speak. Naomi, who'd driven me to the appointment, burst into tears. Are you sure? I finally managed. Nothing's guaranteed, but the markers are all moving in the right direction. Your body is fighting back, and it's winning. 2 more treatment sessions, then we reassess. But Marcus, I'm optimistic. Driving home, Naomi held my hand. You're going to beat this. Yeah, I said, surprising myself with how much I believed it. I am. That evening I called Vanessa with the news. She was ecstatic. Then she added something unexpected. Marcus, I've been contacted by 3 other employment attorneys asking about your case. They want to know if you'd be willing to speak at a professional conference about employee documentation and advocacy. Not about Derek specifically, but about the broader issues. Would you consider it? When I'm recovered? Yes, absolutely. You're becoming a voice for change. You know that, right? I hadn't thought of it that way, but maybe she was right. Week 11 brought a scare. I developed a fever, and Dr. Peterson admitted me to the hospital as a precaution. Chemotherapy patients are vulnerable to infections, and even minor illnesses can become life-threatening. I spent 3 days in isolation, terrified that after everything, after winning the battle with Derek and responding well to treatment, an infection would kill me. But tests came back clear. The fever broke. It had been nothing more than my exhausted immune system overreacting to a minor virus. I went home weak but relieved. Patricia visited again, bringing books and expressing the company's concern. "Everyone's asking about you," she said. "The new employees who came in after Derek left have heard the story. You're kind of a legend." I laughed weakly.
"Ah, bald, skinny legend."
"The best kind." She grew serious. "Marcus, I wanted you to know 3 people have already used the employee advocate system. All 3 had complaints about managers creating hostile environments around medical issues. We caught them early, before anyone got hurt like you did. The system you pushed for is working." That meant more to me than any settlement check. Week 12. My last chemotherapy session. Naomi, Kyle, and Vanessa all came to sit with me through the 4-hour infusion. We played cards, told stories, and celebrated reaching the end of the hardest 12 weeks of my life. "After this, you're done?" Kyle asked. "After this, I wait. 3 weeks for my body to recover, then scans to see if I'm in remission. But the active treatment phase ends today." Dr. Peterson came by personally to disconnect my 4 when the infusion finished. "Marcus, you've been one of my most resilient patients. Not just physically, but mentally. What you accomplished while fighting cancer, it's remarkable. I couldn't have done it without help. Maybe. But you dared to ask for help and to fight back when you were at your weakest. That's not common. Most people just try to survive. You demanded better and you got it. For yourself and for others." Walking out of the oncology center for the last time as an active patient, I felt something shift inside me. I'd entered this building 12 weeks ago broken and terrified. I was leaving scarred and exhausted but fundamentally changed. I'd learned I was stronger than I knew. That speaking up mattered. That justice, though difficult, was possible. And that one person refusing to accept abuse could start a wave of change. 3 weeks later, I sat in Dr. Peterson's office with Naomi, waiting for the scan results. My hands were shaking. This moment would determine everything, whether the nightmare was over or just beginning again. Dr. Peterson walked in smiling, and I knew before she spoke. "Complete remission. All markers clear. Marcus, you beat it." Naomi screamed and hugged me. I sat stunned, unable to process the words. "Beat it. Remission. Clear. What happens now?" I asked when I could speak. "Regular monitoring. Scans every 3 months for the first year, then every 6 months. There's always a chance of recurrence with lymphoma, but your response was excellent. Your prognosis is very good." I walked out of that office feeling like I'd been given a second life. Everything looked different. Sharper, more valuable, more precious. I'd faced death and won. I'd faced corporate cruelty and won. I transformed from victim to victor, not through revenge, but through standing up for what was right. That evening, I updated my LinkedIn status. Today I was declared cancer-free. 12 weeks ago, my manager denied my medical leave for treatment. Today I'm in remission, he's unemployed, and workplace protections at my company are stronger than ever. Sometimes fighting back is the only way forward. The post got 14,000 likes and was shared over 6,000 times. The messages of support and similar stories flooded in. But the most meaningful message was simple: "Proud of you, brother." From Tony Brennan. 14 weeks post-treatment, I was cleared to return to work. Bradley insisted on meeting with me personally before my first day back. "Your new office is ready," he said. "Senior team lead, as promised. But Marcus, I want to make something clear. There's no pressure to come back if you're not ready. Your position is secure, whether you return now or in 3 months." "I'm ready," I said, and I'd spent enough time sitting at home. I wanted to work again, to use my mind, to move forward. "Your team is excited. They've all been briefed on appropriate conduct and boundaries regarding your health. But expect some celebration. They've been rooting for you." My first day back was surreal. My new office was twice the size of my old cubicle, with windows overlooking the city. My team of 6 analysts greeted me with cards and carefully chosen non-food gifts, since they knew my stomach was still sensitive. But the most powerful moment came when I walked past Derek's old office. It was being renovated into a conference room. Every trace of him was gone, erased like he'd never existed. I was here. He wasn't. That felt like justice. Patricia stopped by for lunch. How does it feel? Strange. Good. Like I'm building something new instead of returning to something old. You are. This company is different now, partly because of you. Use that influence wisely. I intended to. 6 months post-remission, I received an invitation to speak at a national HR conference about workplace medical leave advocacy. The conference was specifically focused on preventing discrimination against employees with serious health conditions. I almost declined. Public speaking had never been my strength, and reliving the trauma for an audience of strangers seemed daunting. But then I remembered all those messages from people who'd used my story to protect themselves. I accepted. The conference was in Chicago. Naomi came with me for support. When I walked on stage and saw the 300 HR professionals waiting, my mouth went dry. But then I remembered Derek's face when he denied my leave. The recording. The fear. The fight. I spoke for 40 minutes about documentation, advocacy, and the cost of silence. I shared specific steps employees could take to protect themselves and concrete policies companies could implement to prevent abuse. I made Derek's destruction of people's lives real and tangible for an audience that worked in sterile policy language. When I finished, the room was silent for 3 seconds. Then everyone stood. The standing ovation lasted 2 minutes. Multiple people were crying. Afterwards, 17 HR directors approached me for contact information, wanting to implement my recommended policies in their companies. 5 employment attorneys asked permission to cite my case in their presentations. But the most meaningful moment came from a young woman who waited until everyone else had left. I'm an HR coordinator at a mid-sized firm, she said quietly. Last month, my manager denied medical leave to an employee with lupus. I was told to process it as an unpaid absence. I thought about your story. I documented everything and went to our corporate office. That manager is now under investigation, and the employee got their protected leave. You saved someone I've never met. Thank you. 1 year post-remission, I sat in my office reviewing quarterly reports when Patricia knocked on my door. Do you have a minute? She asked. Always. She came in carrying a folder. The Employee Advocate Program has processed 43 cases in its first year. 43 employees who might have suffered in silence or been illegally denied their rights. Every single one was resolved in favor of the employee. We've terminated 2 managers for FMLA violations, disciplined 5 others, and completely restructured how we handle medical leave requests. She opened the folder, showing me statistics, charts, and success stories. Marcus, this program has been so successful that 4 other companies in the region have implemented identical systems. The State Labor Board is considering recommending it as best practice for all corporations with over 500 employees. I stared at the numbers. 43 people. 43 lives not destroyed. 43 families are not financially devastated by illegal retaliation. There's something else, Patricia continued. The company wants to establish an annual award in your name. The Marcus Reid Workplace Advocacy Award, given to employees who demonstrate courage in standing up for themselves or others in the face of injustice. The first recipient would be Alexis Hunt, the woman who reported her manager after reading your story. My throat tightened. Patricia, I just did what anyone should do. But most people don't. Most people stay silent because they're scared. You fought back when you had every reason to give up. That matters. It saved lives, Marcus, including your own. After she left, I stood at my window looking out over the city. Somewhere out there, Derek Holloway was living with the consequences of his choices. I'd heard he'd moved to another state, taken a low-level position outside management. His LinkedIn was gone, his reputation destroyed. I didn't feel vindictive pleasure at his downfall. I felt nothing. He'd become irrelevant to my story. This wasn't about him anymore. It was about the employee who'd just been diagnosed with diabetes who would get accommodations without a fight. About the woman facing breast cancer who wouldn't be threatened with job loss. About every person who would benefit from stronger protections, because I'd refused to accept that business was more important than human life. My phone buzzed. A text from Naomi. 1 year cancer-free. Dinner tonight to celebrate. I smiled and typed back, absolutely.
I'm buying.
1 year ago, I sat in Derek's office being told my life didn't matter as much as a merger timeline. Today, I was thriving in a promoted position, healthy, surrounded by people who valued me, and part of a change that rippled far beyond my own experience. Derek had tried to take everything from me. Instead, he'd given me a purpose I never knew I needed, proving that courage in the face of cruelty could transform not just one life, but dozens, hundreds, maybe even thousands. I'd started this journey as a victim, terrified and alone. I ended it as an advocate, an example, and a survivor who refused to let injustice win. Derek Holloway had taught me something valuable, though not what he intended. He taught me that silence protects abusers, that documentation is power, and that one person standing up can start an avalanche of change. His denial of my sick leave had cost him everything. His job, his reputation, his career, his future. My refusal to accept that denial had given me everything. My health, my dignity, my voice, and a legacy that would protect others long after I'd moved on. Sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's becoming living proof that cruelty doesn't win. That justice, though difficult and slow, is possible. That speaking up matters. That night at dinner, surrounded by the people who'd helped me survive and fight, I raised my glass. To second chances. To courage. To everyone who fights back when the world tells them to stay silent. And to know that one voice, one recording, one moment of bravery can change everything. We clinked glasses and I smiled. I'd survived cancer.
Ide surviva dera kulubay.
And I'd done more than survive. I'd transformed survival into purpose. That was worth more than any revenge could ever be.